Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your f***ing cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round, I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. 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 Cause I just wanna hear it out your mouth, yeah. Give me fuel, it's a tool that I use to go ahead and run my mouth, yeah. I take shots, I take loss, I make shots, I miss lots. That's how you get big box, you get yachts, you swing lots and pop off a big shot. I ain't done chasing, got big dreams, bigger things, impatient. Who's at the top think they need replacement? Who's at the top think I'm gonna erase them? Face it, I don't give up quick, I don't give up shit, I won't give up this. Cause I know that I want it, know that I'm on it, I'll make it, I promise. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me on another episode at the Night's Watch here, presented by me, Fisher of Spam. Now, tonight's episode is very near and dear to my heart. So, what we are going to do is cover Stardust Ranch. Now, I'm going to do this in multiple installments. So, you're going to see this generic little intro thing at the beginning of each one that I do. So you know. Yeah, that's why I haven't changed a shirt or something. So I'm just gonna like give you guys the intro of everything. And yeah. We're gonna do I guess you could say everything in like a actual traditional interview type style. Although it's going to be a little difficult because our subject, John Edmonds, is kinda unalived. Of natural causes. No worries. Everything's good. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of a rundown, and then we'll get straight into the interview. All right? So, I guess the way I need to start this off is by saying that I first heard this story in 2020 from the Hollow Sky podcast. And those guys did such a great job. I mean, their breakdown of the story just holds a special place in my heart and mind, obviously, because I've held on to it for this long. So, one thing I would say is when this episode is done and we haven't covered it all, if you want more, go check them out. Anyways, shout out, yada yada. Let's see here. Let's get into this, right? All right, so the story really should have just been ordinary and nothing eventful happened. You know, John is tired of the hustle and bustle of the city and wants to get out and buy his own ranch and do his thing out there. All right, so this turned out to be one of the most crazy stories that I've ever heard. And really turns into a good story of how not to get abducted. Sure, why not? And you'll see why eventually. But this guy, he's a legend, you know. And let's see here. Originally, he's from Evanston, Illinois. He was a psychiatric counselor, and he had his own practice in Arizona eventually once he moved out there. You know, one thing that was interesting was that when he went out to go and buy this place, you know, it stuck with him. They looked at multiple properties, him and his wife. But this one stuck in his mind. He couldn't get away from it. This is where he wanted to be. This is where he saw endless possibilities. His wife, on the other hand, had the feeling of dread when they saw this place. But she couldn't talk him out of it. You know, and Joyce, to her credit, she was a real ride or die babe. You know, she stuck by her man. He was just in love with this property. And they decided that this is going to be it. This is going to be the forever home. So, little did they know what the ranch had in store for them. So, let's buckle up and get at it and send it! Alright, so we ended with a house cleansing that didn't work. You took a doppelganger out on a date, and I don't know, how would you explain this? Like, you went all Babe Ruth on a gray, right? Which was awesome. Now, what could possibly happen next? Well, as we left on that little cliffhanger, the MIB decided to show up, because of course they would. I mean, why not, right? So let's get into that a little bit, shall we? Well, that is all very interesting, man. So, anyway, let's move along here. And can you tell me, basically what is the next series of events and all that? Let's get back at it.
I remember one day, not too long after these events, where I had a visit from a neighbor. He came over to get some advice on how I clean my guns. Now I'm sure he knew how to do this himself, and was probably just wanting to have an excuse to just come over and drink a beer or three while just wanting to do some manly stuff and look at my gun collection. I was more than happy to oblige him with that because I happen to like guns a lot too. Who doesn't, right?
Oh, yeah, I know, right? I do the exact same thing. I mean, it's an every guy thing though, right? I mean, every guy loves to do this kind of stuff.
Exactly. Now we are chatting and cleaning guns. Or probably better to say, playing with mine, when a black SUV pulls up, and yes, it had what appeared to be government plates on it. Now, two classic-looking MIB guys get out. When I say classic, I mean they're wearing black suits, blacked-out sunglasses, black fedora hats. You know, the whole 9 yards of what we picture them as. Now, honestly, I find that to be pretty impressive. I bet those guys are just cooking inside of all of that in the desert. I almost feel bad for them. Almost. Now understand that to enter my property, you got to go through a large cattle gate. Interestingly enough, they didn't need to open the cattle gate, but rather they seemed to just phase through the gate.
Okay, wait a minute. They phased through the gate? Okay, like it didn't exist or something? How is that even possible?
Yeah, they just walked through the thing like it wasn't even there. You can call it phased through or materialized. I don't really understand what it was. I just know that's what happened. Now, the neighbor also observed this, which is great as now I got a witness to whatever that was that just happened.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, man. So what did he think about it all?
Well, he was a bit shook up about it. He also didn't understand how that could be possible. Who really does, right? I myself don't understand, but I have been around the block a few times by now, so I'm not too surprised, but it's still a bit disconcerting to know that it's going to be one of those days.
Yeah, well, no doubt. Good news is, you got a classic dad tactic laid out with a bunch of firearms, right? I mean, cleaning those things up tends to send a message to the unwanted boyfriend coming around to pick your daughter up. So, hopefully it did the same thing for the unwanted quasi/not affiliated government agency guys,
I do hope so. Now, one interesting thing I noticed was that when they walked, their feet did pick up dust from the ground. I'm not sure how that can be a thing, yet they are able to just materialize through my gate. Who knows?
Okay, well, can you tell me what they looked like besides the outfit? Like, was there any distinguishing features or something like that?
Well, the best way I know how to describe it is that their skin looked like uncooked chicken skin.
That's nasty.
Oh, that just sounds nasty. I wonder if they are 3D printed meat suits too, Either way, it sounds gross, man.
Perhaps. Well, I did my best to be nice and talk to them as I would any cop or whatever, and just said, "Hello, gentlemen, what can I help you with today?" The first guy got right up into my personal space and essentially told me to stop writing articles online about UFOs and the like. Now, I had been doing that, to be fair. I was chatting with MoFon and others, just trying to maybe get some answers if I could. So I decided to play dumb a little and asked him what he meant. He repeated the exact same line, in the exact same manner. It was as if it was a recording or something.
Well, that's very disconcerting. I mean, No warrant or anything. Just show up, use some kind of goofy space magic or the Force or something on the gate, get up in your face and give you a repeated one-liner threat of sorts? What's that? I mean, yeah. I hope at least that nasty skin didn't smell too bad when they were that close to you, man. I'm still kind of hung up on that.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
Not that I remember. But that was pretty far from my mind at the moment. I was just upset by the audacity of it all, honestly. Like you pointed out, where is your warrant? What gives you the right to come onto my private property and just deliver a threat and nothing else?
Exactly, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, so what happened next, man?
Well, he just turned around and walked right back to the SUV. Phased through the gate on the way back out, of course, but yeah, that was it.
Just like that. Wow. That's crazy. Well, did anything else happen, I don't know, shortly after that or anything? Like, what was the next series of events, you know?
Well, I did have a horse come up mutilated after that, but that was really it for the immediate. But it wasn't too long after all of that when fate decided to intervene for me and hand me one of the best gifts I'd ever been given. I remember it was very close to Christmas time, and I was driving behind a truck that was full of all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was just packed beyond what was safe. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, when it hit a bump, all kinds of things fell out. Now I beeped the horn and flashed my lights, doing all I could to try to get their attention. But either they could not hear or see me, or they just didn't care. So I decided to stop and be a good Samaritan and get the things out of the road. The one thing that I picked up that is near and dear to me now was a samurai sword.
Ah, okay, yeah. So this is where the famous weapon comes into play. Man, what a blessing it was that they didn't stop to retrieve it or anything like that. That's awesome.
It truly was. I can't thank them enough for it. Now I put the sword under the bed in a manner that I could get to it quickly. I had fun playing with the bats on these critters. To a certain extent, it was very satisfying to go all Babe Ruth on them. But now it was time for a different experiment. Are they sword-proof?
Oh boy, I am so excited to find out what happens in this part.
Yup, now we are getting there. So once the last horse mutilation happened, I began to see these critters all over the property. It was strange how they did it. They would kind of peek in and look around a second. It was as if they were standing behind a curtain or something. If they saw me and thought that I had seen them, they would just go right back behind that curtain or veil.
Right there. That's very interesting. You know, it makes me think of the jinn in a way. Like, I always like that explanation of where they are from, you know? Like, the whole, they live at a right angle to a right angle of us. I like that explanation. I mean, I guess in more modern terms, I guess you could say a different dimension that's layered on top of ours that is, you know, just beyond the veil or something like that. Nah. But yeah, I like it. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, that is a good way to put it. Now I remember one day when I was at home working on a motorcycle gas tank. I was elbows deep into working on that thing when I felt that all too familiar pressure change happened. Now I understood what that meant. They were fixing to come out and get up to some shenanigans. So I didn't react to them. I wanted them to mess around and find out, as they say. So I get up and start messing around with the television and only use my peripheral vision to look around. Sure enough, I see one peek around the veil, you could say, in the sunroom. I didn't react to them at all. They saw that I was preoccupied, so they must have thought it was safe to come on through. Once again, it was 3 of them that ended up coming out to play. So I just get up and walk to where the sword is. I completely ignore that side of the house because I don't want them to think that I know that they are here. I get the sword out and hide in the hallway where they would not see me from around the corner. Once I could feel their presence about to get to me, I just bum rushed them. I came around the corner and just started hacking at them.
Yes! Oh, this is what I've been waiting for! Please tell me that you got one of them. Please!
Well, once I started hacking at the first one, I managed to decapitate it.
Headshot. Well, now that that's over, how about we go back to my place for a bowl of my favorite cereal, Count Chuck. Decapitation!
The feeling of finally having some results at fighting back against these things has arrived. The other 2 looked at me in shock and horror as I was now victorious and about to claim my next 2 prizes. Can you guess what they decided to do?
Well, assuming that they are halfway smart, I bet that they decided to get the heck out of Dodge, right?
They sure enough did. They just phased right back out before I could start in on them. That look of fear they had on their faces was priceless. It will forever be one of those memories I can look back fondly on. That day, I had victory.
Yeah. I can definitely understand that one. I mean, it wasn't the method that I used to obtain mine, but, I can relate. I'll never forget that look of fear and terror that the one that I saw had once it realized that I could fight back and win. So I can definitely understand that. But yeah, good job. I'm proud of you. So what is the move now?
Well, what I did was wrap the body up in cellophane or plastic and stick it into the freezer. Now I have some proof to show the world. I'm so excited to show my wife first, though. When she got home, she was confused by all the brown liquid around that was from the aftermath. Now, this was a detail at the time that kind of escaped me. I was more preoccupied with the body in the freezer than I was about the blood. Well, it crossed my mind that it would be easier to collect samples of all of that to be sent out rather than hunks off a body. Less explaining to do, as well as probably look better until it was time for the reveal.
To be fair, I feel like sending a severed finger in the mail or something like that would look just a little bit odd. It just may have gotten you some attention that you may not have wanted. Yeah, call me crazy, I don't know.
True, but I did get plenty of attention nonetheless. In fact, I had a few attempts on my life. That wasn't very fun.
Well, I imagine not. Wow, okay. So what happened there?
Well, one time I was in the shed tinkering on something that escapes me at the moment when apparently a sniper round shoots through the shed and almost hits me in the head.
Ooh, wow, yeah, okay, well, that's one way to make you feel alive, I guess. Ooh, okay, so what'd you do after that?
Well, I had a little freak out and ran into the house as fast as I could and called the cops. They came out and did an investigation that pretty much came up with nothing.
Wow. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, but I guess I'm not too surprised. But, I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it was, I don't know, just a stray bullet or something like that?
No, I doubt a stray bullet would still have enough velocity to make it through the garage. I feel like that had some intent behind it. Pulse, there was another incident when Joyce and I were walking towards the car, and automatic gunfire opened up on us. It came from approximately the same place as well. It was the same story, and I called the cops. Now, the difference here was that the neighbors heard it as well, and they also called the cops. This time, the police showed up in full force. It ultimately came to the same thing as last time, but they couldn't just not respond. So that's a good thing.
Huh, okay. Yeah, that's crazy, man. So, do you think that this is all from the MIB again or something?
It is possible. They did warn me to stop talking online about all of this. Then again, I was doing more than just talking, as I was now sending out samples to be analyzed in labs. I would like to think, however, that if that particular organization wanted to really stop me, they would probably do better than sending out a failed sniper, followed by someone to lay down, essentially suppressing fire at me. I would like to think that I was at least worthy of the heart attack gun, or something pretty exotic.
Yeah, that does sound fair. But, wow, I mean, I feel like perhaps it would be a good time to maybe think about selling the place or something. I mean, this seems like it's getting a little out of hand.
Well, it did cross my mind a few times. Honestly, I did manage to garner the attention of Rob Bigelow. He was very interested in buying the place at one time.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, I can imagine he would be. So, I mean, how did that work out?
He pretty much just kept giving me low ball offers, the scumbag. I'm not exactly fond of him. I feel as though he is actually trying to cover up these sites. He will go in and buy these properties and then turn them over to the government. I doubt we would have heard anything about Skinwalker Ranch if not for the research team speaking out about it and writing a book. The book was good, but you know there is way more juicy stuff that went down that never made the book.
You know, that really wouldn't surprise me too much to find out about. But, I don't know, perhaps you're onto something, man, I don't know. You know, I have really no idea, but who knows? But I wouldn't mind having a conversation with the man and finding out what all, he has to say on the matter. I think that would be very interesting.
I hope that can happen for you one day. Interestingly enough, I did challenge him to come out with his team for a time. I said, if this place really is legit, and you guys find what you are looking for, then my property should be worth X amount of dollars. So he did just that. Now they had plenty of activity happening for them and their time here. He called me after a few days, pretty much begging me to buy the place. But once again, he came at me with a low ball offer. Well, that was enough for me. I was done with him.
Wow, I mean, that's just mind-boggling to me, man. I mean, you would think that a multi-billionaire could fork over a couple million without even blinking an eye if he, actually wanted the thing as bad as he says he actually did, right?
You would think so, right? The man would call me periodically until the day I died trying to get me to settle on a low ball offer. Too bad I didn't outlast him, but I was not going to settle.
I think that's understandable. I get it. So, okay. Now, let's get back to those samples that you had sent out. What became of all that?
Well, I did send them out, and a doctor called Levin Good got back with me with some very interesting results. Apparently, they found pure hemoglobin in them, which was also found at a lot of cattle mutilation sites across the country. There were also some kind of segment rods in the DNA that they have never seen before. The skin samples were also very strange in that under the microscope, they appeared to look like finely segmented grass.
Interesting. Very interesting. Once again, it reminds me of 3D printing or something along those lines, you know what I mean? That's very interesting.
Perhaps. But either way, he was very excited about this finding. I remember him being over the moon about it all on the phone. He was convinced we had the smoking gun of proof with these samples. Can you guess what happened next?
You know what? Another shot in the dark here, but I'm gonna say he probably got unalived. And then shortly after, like, all the samples probably ended up disappearing, didn't they?
Perhaps we're in an easy mode of jeopardy. But yes, that is exactly what happened. Apparently he was unalived by natural causes not long after that.
You know, it kinda sounds to me like maybe he's the one that got the heart attack gun instead of you know?
I have no idea. It was very upsetting though, as you can imagine. But I do know what you are thinking. Why didn't I start the ball sooner? Why does evidence disappear? I don't know why they do other than that. The realm of exopolitics is one of the most heavily surveilled things out there. Why does this kind of stuff happen to others? Why did John Mack get hit by a drunk driver who jumped up onto the sidewalk to hit him in London? Why do abductees get their memories wiped or get cold feet all of a sudden? Why did the next academic from Harvard to take up John Mack's mantle completely contradict all of his work? People who stand up for the truth tend to have a way of having to deal with horrible consequences for them and their family members after standing up to these folks. It's just how it goes. I don't care if anyone out there believes me or not. It's just simply the truth. I don't have the answers, but I have witnessed the aftermath, and anyone who has eyes can see it. They know that what I'm saying is the truth. It makes me think that the general public is pretty much like the Neanderthal, and the government is Homo sapien. The government just outclasses them and outmaneuvers them at every turn. By hook or by crook, they always seem to win.
You know, you're not wrong. I mean, I do find it very odd how that always seems to be the situation, right? Now, I would like to go down a bit of a tangent, if you don't mind. Like, there's something that I'd like to really get into, if you don't care.
Sure. What is on your mind?
Okay, so let's circle back a little bit, because I've got a few things that are still a little top of mind, I guess you could say. So, we're on the subject of the sword. Can you talk a little bit about your unalive count among the Greys? Because, yeah.
I know you have been dying to hear this part, so sure, why not? Well, with the sword, I have harvested 18 of them. Now understand that just because I had a weapon that worked, that doesn't mean that every time it was flawless. I have plenty of scars on me that I received during glorious battle with them. Plus, if you don't have a sword that works, then it can be difficult to get them. I only have one I managed to get without the sword.
Awesome. I mean, it's just absolutely awesome. Okay. Now, I do have a bit of a tangent that I'm gonna go down, like a little winding path with the sword a little bit later. But before I do that, how did you manage to get the one without the sword that you seem to have gotten? You've piqued my curiosity there, good sir.
Well, interestingly enough, it was by blunt force trauma. I essentially managed to get the drop on one and grabbed it by the ankles. They don't weigh a whole lot, so what I did was swing it around and bashed it against the walls and furniture until it stopped moving.
Bro. Oh my god. Man, that is just epic. You're my hero, man. Oh, wow. Are you sure that you're not Jake the Snake?
Well, thank you, and I can assure you that I am not. Always aim for the head when attacking them. Something about it seems to prevent them from phasing out. I have had many more times where I had dealt out great damage to them, and any normal being would have been unalived, but they just phase out. Even if you unalive them, If you don't take the head off, they will phase out. It's like a respawn thing seems to happen. Or their body has a recall stone or something. They just disappear. It is the oddest thing, and very frustrating. As you can imagine, I was not the greatest swordsman to ever live, so getting the head on the first go wasn't always easy. If I were a young man, I would have liked to have received some kind of martial arts training that involved a sword.
Man, you did a fantastic job, brother. Let me just tell you. Plus, the image of you beating one against a wall, like, I don't know, a dusty shirt or something, is just so funny. So funny. You know, the only thing that would really maybe make it better was if you had like a pair of nunchucks or something and you got to like recreate a Bruce Lee movie scene. That would be cool. You know, you definitely needed like a yellow and black striped pair of like pajamas or something to sleep in every night. It's too bad that you're unalived, you know, and we can't make that happen because, yeah, I would so be willing to do that if I could.
Well, hindsight has a way of being like that. You're right, though. That would be pretty funny. Now, you mentioned something about the sword. Now, I am curious. What is it that you know?
Okay, well, all right, now follow me, folks. This is going to be a bit of a long one, all right? So, the traditional way of forging the samurai sword, first, the ore itself is made from a huge amount of essentially iron sand. And, you know, they keep feeding that in until, like, you know, they have the proper amount. Okay, so then they make 2 grades of carbon steel. One hard and one soft. But the iron used is what I think that actually matters. You know, like, iron itself has a history of affecting these things. I don't know, but I think that the amount of carbon could be a factor as well. As in that, you know, we and everything else here are carbon-based life forms, and, you know, I suspect that their dual nature makes them susceptible to that, potentially. You know, the spiritual side of them. But anyways. So iron seems to be like the key from what I can tell. Now, there is a history in Fey lore that seems to back this up, as iron seems to unalive them. You know, and that is why, like, for instance, in Arabic culture, they hang like an old sword above the door of their dwelling. Also, in Europe, they use old horseshoes and things like that above the door and such. You know, it was all in an effort to ward them off using said iron. Now, of course, there's also the Shi, and, you know, that name really bugs me. It's like it reads like said he or something like that, but it's pronounced she. Anyways, yeah, they were from Ireland, and they were supposedly driven out with the use of black iron weaponry, I think. But, well, you know, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the top of my head here. Yeah, but either way. So, there is a history is what I'm getting at, right? So, I'm not sure if the carbon content has anything to do with it, but I do suspect that it plays a bit of a role. You know, so, yeah, so, you know, in the field, like when I actually go out, and, you know, I personally carry a large Damascus steel war knife. You know, that pretty much accomplishes the same thing. You know, so I'm trying to cover my bases there. I've got higher and lower carbon content, you know, with things that would have higher and lower iron content in them. So, yeah. But anyways, you know, but actually now that I think about it, I bet somebody could take an old cast iron skillet and probably, like, you know, cut out some chunks from it or something and make themselves a crude little knife or something like that, and probably accomplish the same thing as well. It's probably gonna be a little hard to make a sword from a cast iron skillet, but they got other stuff, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe an old scythe or something like that. Either way, you folks out there are crafty. If this is something that appeals to you, I'm sure you can make it happen.
You make a good point. It makes me wonder if that's why that old grizzled-looking ruffian I met apparently used an old rusty-looking machete. I'm willing to bet that it was fairly cheap and had a high carbon and iron content to the blade.
I would imagine so, yeah. Wow, you know what? I bet the story, of like how that all went down, like how he came to that conclusion would be a good one to hear. Like, I picture a desperate struggle going down in, like, I don't know, the barn or something. And he fumbles around to find something and grabs the machete and bada bing, bada boom, snick, snack, snoop, slash, 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 boom. It worked. Or, something like that. That's what I'm picturing.
That would not surprise me at all if something like that happened.
Oh, you know what? What if, after you sent him away, he was like, I don't know, drinking at a bar, and the writer of that one movie, what was it called? Oh, Machete Kills. Yeah, what if the writer of the movie was there and sitting at the bar or whatever, and he overheard him telling these old stories about the monsters and the aliens, and the writer was like, wow, that would make a good movie, but let's just replace the aliens with cartel members, yeah, because that's more believable. And then boom, you got that wrapped up in the bag. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. What if that was the case, man? That would be crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that would be something. I like how your mind works.
Well, thank you. It may not be how things actually went down, but, you know what? I'm going to make that my own personal headcanon. Yeah, that's how that happened. I'm going to run with it, I'm going to run with that.
Sure, why not? So anyways, at this point in the story, things are about to get weird.
Okay. Wait a second. At this point, things are about to get weird? Okay. Alright. Yeah, I'm here for it, man. What happens next?
Are you familiar with the concept of a walk-ins?
All it's supposed to feel.